Has anyone ever been in this situation? You ever been in a situation where a period in your life, I've been there, a period in your life where things just seem to be rough. Like everything seems to be going bad. I remember being in a situation like that, in a period in my life like that. You got the bills coming in the mail, or through your email, you get the reminders, you getting the phone calls, you getting all that sort of stuff, and they all just seem to be hitting you at once. And then everything that you really need seems to be up for renewal. It could be your license up for renewal, but that costs money, right? It could be some subscription for something that you really want to keep, not something that you could probably let go of, but something you feel like you really need, you need to keep. It's up for renewal, right? Everything just seems to be up for renewal. The cards are getting hit. Your check's not going up. Your pay is not increasing. The rent or the mortgage is due. Like it just everything that could cost, that will take money out of your pocket, just seems to be revolving within that period, within the same space. What do you do? Have you ever been in that, when you're in that situation where, man, you stop looking at the bills, you throw them on the table, they're piling up. You peek at them. Sometimes you can't even bring yourself to read the entirety of the letters or the notices or whatever that you believe that you received. The emails, from time you see who it's from, you ain't even want to read it. You say, I'm going to read this when I get a chance. And you got all these things going on, but you paying your car note because you need to get to work. All right, you paying the rent. All right, because you need a place to stay, and obviously you're buying gas and some food. But outside of that, everything just seems to be just changing, revolving at that time. What do you do? Well, the truth is, man, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people, and I've done it before, where I just coiled up for a period, for a hot minute, kind of coiled up. And you just, all those things, you don't even want to look at those bills. You don't want to do it. It just seems like everything is hitting you at once. And you're saying, God, jeez, woo, can I win the lottery or something? But let's stop there and think. If you find yourself in that position, or if you're in that position right now, you didn't just end up in that position. That a lot of times is years and years of mismanagement of money, not budgeting, not living within, your means or whatever it takes. And sometimes folks need to learn the hard way. I went through a period in life where I also learned the hard way, you know. So when you find yourself, or if you're in that current situation, it's understandable. You're a human being. You're going to be emotional, right? You're going to wonder, wow, how did I get here? You got a job, you got this, you got that, you whatever the cases. And that's when you could cry for a minute. You could sulk for a minute. You could coil up for a minute. But what's really going on is you got to stop, and sit down and reflect on how you got to this point in the first place. Like, how did you get to this point in the first place? And you realize that it's a series of mistakes, bad habits, spending off of emotion, or whatever the case is, that led you to the point where you are right now. So what you got to do? Let me tell you what I did. After I sulked for a minute, maybe shed a tear for a minute, or whatever the case is, I decided there's got to be a change. And then when I change, I ain't looking back. Got rid of everything I needed to get rid of. If I didn't need it, it was going to be gone. Probably there was a payment going to be coming in for this one, but this was going to be the last payment I was going to be putting on that stuff. So whether it was you needed to get rid of the cable, whether you need to get rid of some sort of online subscription, for whatever the case is, you just do you need it? is what you got to ask yourself. Sometimes we convince ourselves that we need something because we have become comfortable with it. It's like a relationship. Sometimes you find yourself in a relationship with someone and you convince yourself that you can't live without them because you've become too dependent on them. You could live without them. Oh, you can. But convenience and being too comfortable causes us to stay in situations that sometimes we don't need to be in. So I had to let myself know, you don't need this. You don't need that. You don't need that. You need to get rid of these things because you do not need them. And that's something that I definitely needed to do. I needed to get rid of things that I do not need. So I got rid of all those things that I didn't need. They were phased out throughout the course of the month or whatever the case is. Some things may be longer subscriptions. So I made sure I went in and say, okay, I don't want this again. And remember, if you find yourself in a situation like this where you're struggling, your finances, your life, just whatever in your life is out of chaos, it's not going to change overnight. It's going to take determination. It's going to take consistency. That is what is going to cause things to change, but only over a period of time. It's not going to change overnight. So don't expect because you start doing these things and magically your life, everything, it begins to change. And a lot of times when things begin to change, we can't feel them initially for a point, for a certain phase. But after several months, maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows, and you no longer have to make payments on certain things, you've now realized that you're not dependent on certain things, or maybe even certain people, then what happens is you start to realize, oh, I have more cash. Now, you may not have more cash at that point to just go out and do what you want, because you may have some debt, like credit card debt or loan, whatever the case is. But now this gives you the opportunity to turn your funds, the funds that you are, keeping, I won't even say saving, the funds that you are keeping because you're not having to pay those other things. You got rid of all those subscriptions. Now you could turn these towards the debt that you're trying to pay off. If you got credit cards or whatever the case is, throw it towards the debt. Knock out that credit card with the least amount of money on it first. Get rid of it. Now you could begin to pay off that debt one by one. Now there might also be some sacrifice that you got to make. Maybe you got to get an extra job, or maybe you work at a job where you can do some overtime. That's fair, right? So maybe you might need to invest a little extra 5 hours a week or whatever, and kind of point that money, not kinda, but point that money, place that money, invest that money in reducing your debt. Because the less debt that you have is the more independence that you have, is the more comfortable you're going to feel over a period of time, right? So you're investing your money in that sort of stuff, in paying off your debt. And now this might take a while depending on where you are, in a combination of reducing the things you don't need and maybe working some overtime or getting a part-time job. But look at the progress that you could make after 5 months, 6 months, a year. Maybe it might take you 2 years to completely change your circumstances. But I guarantee you, when you get through the process, the phase that you're going through, you are going to be so much better for it. You're going to feel so much more comfortable. And you can sleep so much better, knowing that you don't owe all these people or whatever the circumstance of the situation is. So, the other thing with this is, initially when you get these sorts of things, these bills in the mail or these notices or whatever the case is, it is best to not hide from them, because you can't in a lot of situations, right? So it is best to deal with them up front, because the sooner you deal with a situation, I've realized also, it's the less fees or whatever you're going to end up paying in the long run, which is less money that you're trying to pay back. So maybe as soon as you get these things, not maybe, as soon as you get these things, it's best to go ahead and call somebody. Start negotiating, lower payments, whatever it is you need to do. Because the longer you delay that sort of stuff, a lot of times it ends up costing you more money in the long run. I know, it's emotional, it's tough, it's a lot. But sometimes you just got to do what you need to do to get into a position where you could be happy. Money's not everything. We know that. But at the same time, it's tough to live without it. And it's tough to be stressed out because you don't have it. So you got to take care of what you have. Check out the rest of the channel. Please subscribe, share, hit the like button, all that good stuff helps the channel grow. This is my journey to 5,000 subscribers. So I'd appreciate if you joining and, hopping on board. At the end of every video, I ask you to do two things. Do something good for someone. No, you do not have to be rich to give back. And giving back isn't always about money. And then do something good for yourself. Maybe there's a situation you need to walk out of. Maybe there's a situation you need to walk into. Till next time, peace.